All right guys, welcome back. As many of you know, if you've been following the channel, this is the Z that we built in 18 days and immediately drove cross country over 1,800 miles. Today we're here at the bottom of the hill at Horse Thief, and I wanted to go ahead and give you guys a little review on the Jim Wolf clutch and flywheel combo, as well as their heavy duty Concentric Slave upgrade that I installed on the car before we left Mississippi. I didn't want to do a review on it before we left. I wanted to actually put some miles on it and put it to use and see how I felt overall on the track and off the track, and even here in this case a cross-country tour basically. So I have a lot of my customers back home, well, friends and customers alike, ask me, which clutch or which flywheel they should use for the 350Z, and there are a lot of really good options. Now, I have a personal previous experience with the Jim Wolf clutch and flywheel combo, and I liked it very much on my old DE car. If you're new watching, you may notice this is a DE car that I've put the HR engine in, so we're specifically talking about the Concentric Slave and the clutch and flywheel combo for the Vq35hr today. So for starters, the factory clutch and flywheel, as you know, the flywheel is a dual mass flywheel, and it does create a little bit of a different feel whenever you're taking off from the red light. And the factory Concentric Slave is actually a plastic based Concentric Slave. They're very common to failure because they lack a outer dust seal to keep some of the clutch particles from entering the hydraulic system and actually obstructing the sealing surface and letting it actually leak the clutch fluid out even when there's actually nothing wrong with it. So what Jim Wolf has done, they're using, from what looks like to me, a T56 upgraded Concentric Slave cylinder, which is very heavy duty. It's double sealed, and they've machined their billet base to mount it to the 350Z transmission bell housing. So in this car, I do have their clutch and flywheel and the Concentric Slave installed. I wanted to talk about some of the differences. Now, I've had some HR cars, I've had quite a few Z's at this point, I've had stock HR cars, and some of my customers and friends have stock HR cars that still have that dual mass flywheel and that plastic Concentric Slave. And I've noticed whenever you're coming off of the clutch at the red light, it's not really a natural feeling. And it may be more so from the dual mass flywheel, but I feel like a lot of it is to do with the Concentric Slave. There are a lot of Concentric Slave options out there, and if you found this video, you may be trying to answer your question of, should I get an external kit with a lot of moving parts and a lot of pieces, or should I keep it simple and just use the Jim Wolf setup, since it does use the tried and true proven T56 slave cylinder on their billet base. Is a very simple design. Personally, for this car, this was going to be a car that I'm driving a lot on the street, and I wanted it to be more of a street trim vehicle, and also more of a test for some people that may want advice on, if my car is 80 or 90% street car and 10% track car, do I really need those expensive inclusive kits that move the slave cylinder to the outside of the bell housing? And in my opinion, all of that kind of unnaturalness that comes from the factory Slave and the factory dual mass flywheel is completely gone now. And that was a big complaint for me with the HR. I had spent so much time with the DEs along the years because they got cheaper first, and obviously, like a lot of car people, the cheaper one is more appealing. So now that the HRs have become cheaper and I'm actually able to own one myself and kind of experiment with it, that's what this was about. So like I was saying, the slave cylinder that Jim Wolf has used for this kit is a standard T56 slave cylinder. It's proven itself time and time again. We know we don't have any issues of it failing. Another concern of mine was how well it worked in conjunction with the factory master cylinder. On this car, I did go ahead and install a brand new OEM master cylinder at the same time, and it's always recommended, you'll see in their instructions, to completely flush the lines of any debris or old fluid before you start bleeding it down and install your new slave, because the contaminants can come from within and cause damage to the new slave, just like they did the old one, even though it does have the dust seal. So make sure when you're installing it, you completely flush the system. It's a good idea to go ahead and put a good fresh brand new OEM Nissan master cylinder for an HR on it. But after driving 1,800 miles, I'm very pleased with it, and I will definitely continue to use these on all of my customers that use their cars on the street. Now, if you're in an application where you are pushing more than a factory horsepower level and you want to get the heat off of your slave cylinder, that may be the point that you need to look into the external systems. I believe there's 2 or 3 companies that do a very nice inclusive system. If I had to make a recommendation, I would definitely say Z1 Motorsports probably has the best looking kit in my opinion, although I do not have any experience with it. But those guys have been super helpful, and all their products have been so great along the years, including their engine mounts that we installed the other day. So on our way here, we stopped through a national park. We weren't just on the highway the whole time. We stopped through a couple of towns, and so I've been through all the conditions on the street that you would see with a aftermarket clutch. And I also really like that the pedal feel with this 1200 kilogram pressure plate is almost like factory. It is very easy to drive, even in the bumper-to-bumper traffic that we got into from time to time coming out here. It didn't wear my leg down. That's another thing with aftermarket clutches. Sometimes the pedal can become too heavy and it's almost unpleasant to drive or use the car. But for a factory car, even if it was a car that I wasn't using on the track at all, I would definitely recommend doing the Jim Wolf Slave over the others just for simplicity. Like I said, if you're concerned with heat and you're making more power, you're getting a lot of heat in the clutch and the flywheel, then it might be a good idea to look at some of the external options. But for a street car at stock power, this setup has worked well. We actually were able to do some testing already since we've been here, and even on the track it just felt great. It was nice and crisp, excellent natural engagement feeling, which fixed the complaint that I've had about the HR clutch in the factory form for so long. So I'm very pleased. Jim Wolf, you've done a great job at making an excellent product, and hopefully this video helps some of you guys answer your questions of which clutch should I get, or is this one the right one for me? So we will put a link in the description where you can view these parts and check out their product pages. So that's it for this one. We'll see you next time, guys.
Hey, what are you doing in there?